Next up is going to be the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks were active this offseason in reshaping their roster. The biggest note is that they signed Kyrie Irving to a 3-year, $126 million contract. They retained him after acquiring him over the trade deadline. The details on that deal are interesting. According to Spotrac, he has a last year player option and a 15% trade bonus, which feels important for a Kyrie Irving situation, given how the last few situations have ended. The thing that Dallas did best was completely reshape their defense around Luka and Kyrie. So at the draft, they trade number 10 and Davis Bertans to Oklahoma City, and they get Derek Lively, a 7'1" big from Duke, who long-term should be their defensive anchor on the interior. I don't know that he'll be able to play more than like 10 minutes a night this year. He is definitely somebody that will take a lot of work offensively, but he has real defensive anticipation and real capabilities. They acquired the number 24 pick and Rashawn Holmes from Sacramento on draft night and selected Olivier Maxence Prosper, a 6'8" wing from Marquette. He is a guy I think will play pretty early for them because he is an awesome defensive player who can take on tough assignments at the 3 and the 4. The other guy they got that takes on tough assignments that hit the 3 and the 4 is Grant Williams. They traded, and I don't think I realized they gave up as much as they did for Grant, to be honest with you.
A lot. Yeah.
So they traded, I believe, 2 seconds to Boston for Grant Williams. And then they moved Reggie Bullock and an unprotected 2030 first-round pick swap to San Antonio for Grant Williams. That unprotected pick swap for a team that has Victor Wembanyama is something that we're going to look at in like 6 years if Luka leaves Dallas for some reason and be like, oh shit, this was bad. All of that is very dependent on what happens with Luka. It's not worth speculating on that. But that one is one that I'm watching and I'm just like, oh, that could be a fun one. They signed Grant Williams to a 4-year, $53 million deal. They retained Dwight Powell on a 3-year, $12 million deal. They bring in Seth Curry and Dante Exum on deals that are guaranteed for this year, like at a combined $7 million. They signed Derek Jones Jr. to a 1-year, $2.7 million deal. They waive JaVale McGee. His contract will be stretched over the next 5 years at a $2.3 million cap hit. And if you look at who they got rid of, it's Christian Wood, who was a no defense player, Theo Pinson, Frank Ntilikina, Justin Holiday, and Markieff Morris. A fascinating offseason where the infrastructure defensively that you can see in Dallas now, they can do some weird, fun things where like they play wildly small with like Maxi Kleba at the 5, Grant Williams at the 4, Grant like anchoring against bigs, Maxi being like a crazy help defender. They still have Tim Hardaway Jr. on this roster. They still have Josh Green on this roster. He's an enormous piece of where they're going. Mm-hmm. If you watch Dante Exum with Australia as well during the World Cup, you saw a guy that I think very clearly looks like a player that will be valuable in the rotation at the end of the day for Dallas. Is just a up-tempo, transition pusher with Kyrie particularly, I think, given that Kyrie, I think, likes to play a little bit more up-tempo than what people often give him credit for. A really fun roster now. Dante is a good defender. Omax is a good defender. Josh Green's a good defender. Maxi's a good defender. Grant Williams is a good defender. Like, there's just a lot there. There's truly just a lot there that I really like.
Yeah, I like the moves. I like the young players too. I like Derek Lively. I like Omax Prosper. And of course, I like Jaden Hardy and what he can continue to turn into. Like, those are 3 valuable depth pieces. The question for me is just, can you get anything really consistently out of one of them this year? Because if you can, and one of those guys turns into a rotation player or a plus rotation player, I like where Dallas is headed. But if you remove those 3 guys from the rotation, so to speak, right? Like, Lively and Prosper aren't quite ready, and Hardy still has some of his decision making and kind of flaws that allow him to not play next to Kyrie or Luka, it does feel like they're one piece short in some regard. Like they've got better role players and a better cohesive plan, but talent wise, I wish there was just one more guy.
I do wish they had one more guy, but for a Dallas team that like desperately needed to overhaul its defense this offseason, and you're going to build around Luka and Kyrie, at least for the next 2 years, you needed to do all of this.
Yeah.
Like this is all the infrastructural moves that you had to make in order to have a chance, I think. And they have young guys now defensively that can build and grow with Luka in Josh Green, Omax, and Derek Lively. Honestly, like if Lively is ready to play by year 2, it'll be a win. If he's ready to play by year 2 and like be valuable, that'd be huge for Dallas. Like it'd be enormous. If he's ready to play it all this year, it'd be enormous for Dallas. I'm skeptical on that front. And I think that's probably why they brought back Dwight Powell. I would expect that Dwight Powell starts for this team still, but there's just a lot here that you can really make work, I think, if you're Dallas.
Yeah, and the underrated piece to all of this to me continues to be Josh Green and Tim Hardaway Jr. as guys who on the wings are not just valuable, Green because of his defensive acumen in some regard, but this is a team that can and will continue to mismatch hunt and punish poor defenders. And what Hardaway and Green do as screeners and guys who go up there and force those mismatches while being able to knock down shots is really, really important. Like it's a simple brand of basketball on the offensive end, as long as you have some of those guys out there, which is why I'm glad they're leaning into the defensive framework and some of their other role guys.
And by the way, my take on Josh Green is that they should sign him to an extension now versus later, because Josh Green looked good for Australia. And I think he's going to look really good with this team. He is, to me, like an immediate starter at the 3 for them. Play him with Grant Williams at the 4. Play probably Dwight Powell at the 5, I guess. Hope that Lively continues to make real growth. You bring Tim Hardaway Jr. as like your instant offense off the bench. But yeah, it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah. Can I just ask you, Sam, what's going to happen here with Christian Wood? Like what's going on, man?
I don't know. I truly have no idea. I have no idea. I'm not going to speculate on that.
No,
I don't know where it goes.
I'm not asking necessarily for like who's going to sign him and for how much, but it's like, what do you do with a player like that right now? Like he can score the crap out of it. Like there's no doubt about it.
I don't know. I have never been in on the Christian Wood hive personally. So I'm probably the wrong person to ask. Maybe we'll go with on this.
Fair enough.
But I think Dallas is a playoff team this year. I think their defense is going to be good or at least better. Like if they can get to league average on defense, if they can get to 18th on defense from 24th last year, this team is like probably a 48 win team, you would think, with Luka and Kyrie. But we'll see if Luka and Kyrie stay healthy, and as long as they stay healthy, it'll be a good team. Let's move on. I love this offseason though. This was one of my favorite off seasons just in general, building around what you have.